Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Clear your clutter. Don't we all have clutter? We have clutter in our life personally. We have clutter on our desk. We have clutter in our kitchen. It's a great subject. And we have a brilliant author, Crum, and she wrote a book called Clear Your Clutter, 50 Ways to Organize Your Life, Home, or Business so you can become more calm, focused, and happy and uncluttered. Welcome to our show, Sue.
Oh, thank you, Anita. I've always enjoyed talking with you.
Well, you have such a great subject, I have to say. I wanted to ask you something. When did you first get interested in clutter? Were you a clutterful child?
As a child, I really had organizational challenges. That I did have. I was not one of those born with the organizing gene. Very few of us get that. But you probably might remember some people from school who had all their Mary Jane shoes all lined up in their closet at home and their pencils ready. That was not me. I was the youngest in my class, and so I was always way behind everybody else, turning in a paper or getting the right pencil or having a pencil that worked. I kind of had to learn this along the way, some strategies, because I was scattered and very unorganized, and I thought I can't make it through life going like this. So I had to learn strategies and things along the way.
Well, I think about, I have some children, and one son used to keep his little mini cars all lined up. His room was always clean compared to all the other children. So he didn't like clutter. But now that he's a grown up and he has triplets and the house is so cluttered, I guess he had to change.
Oh gosh. How old are the triplets?
10.
Oh, golly. Yeah,
and
that's triple time.
Yeah, that's right. And he's an attorney. And so when you go into his law office, there are it's neat, but lots of stacks of stuff undone.
There you go.
But let's get back to
all
you.
Got the stuff.
Yeah, but that's right. It's the stuff. And another thing, I do want to ask you some more questions, but one thing I've been wondering, when the internet came on, it was supposed to help us with paperwork. It was supposed to give us more time. Do you know that it's made it harder for me? I have more filing cabinets. Yeah. So do you deal with that in your talks?
Well, it depends kind of on the clients. Some of my clients have heard about all of this paperless, society. They first started talking about that back in the 1970s, that we were heading to the paperless society. But my experience is just what you said. I see the opposite going on for most people, in that everybody's running a home office nowadays. Everybody has printers in their home. Everybody's having to, get their own cartridges and toners and all of that in the home, which never was the way it was before. And then people are making copies of things because sometimes they don't trust, that they'll be able to find it if they have it in the cloud or on their computer somewhere. So people are going kind of the opposite way. But every once in a while there are some companies that have really made efforts to go paperless. And when clients ask me about that, I say, well, don't go back and try to archive everything you've already got, but going forward, see where you can reduce the paper that's coming in.
That's good advice.
See what you can take online. So don't try to go back. It's going to be, a big uphill battle. But going forward, see where you can reduce and simplify, and who else has copies of this, and streamline.
Yeah, very good advice. Okay, so is there a certain time of year that's better for decluttering and getting organized than other times?
Oh, that's a great question, Anita. And so often people think, okay, I'm going to do this for the new year, and I'm going to make a New Year's resolution. Getting organized is one of the top 3 New Year's resolutions, along with losing weight and getting exercise in. And really, there is no set time of year that's better than others. It depends on the mindset of the individual. And by that I mean when the person is ready, what do they say, the expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When they're really ready to make that change and go, no more, I'm not doing this anymore, I can't find things, I'm under too much stress, I'm too scattered. When their mindset is, I'm not going to live this way anymore, that's the best time. It doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution at some New Year's Eve party over guacamole.
Right.
Those all fail.
Right. And one thing that my husband told me to do, he said, you need an assistant. You need someone so when you have all this paperwork that they can go ahead and keep it filed. So I did hire someone. That was probably 10 years ago. And after 6 months, she was so good at so many things. You know, the Peter principle. I made her into a salesperson who she's been great, and I lost my assistant.
But she might be able to train someone and find someone like her to replace her, because there are tasks that we have to kind of analyze whether or not we're the best person to do. Yes, we can do them, and yes, we have the skill set, but is it the best use of our time? And is there some? And then you kind of have to do like a dollar. What's your hourly dollar rate? And is this worth me spending time doing when someone else who I can pay at a much different pay scale can do the same task?
Yeah, when you think
free
about
you up for some bigger jobs.
Right. That's very good advice. And I haven't replaced her, but I'm thinking about that. Well, I have actually brought some people in, but you're right. It does take time to train them. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about are filing cabinets. Now, I have filing cabinets, and we moved from a home we had for 28 years, brought it into our apartment. I have the same filing cabinets loaded with things that are so old. I just feel like dumping everything out of all the filing cabinets and starting new. Should I do that?
Probably, especially the ones that you haven't looked at in a long time. So here's the rule on filing. It's the Pareto principle, the 20-80 rule. 80% of what you're filing, you're never going to look at again. You really don't need. So you kind of have to look at where are the files that this is the one and only copy of. I have the one and only, the original, the best of the best, and no one else in the world has this. Those you want to hang on to. But the ones that are closed cases or closed files or closed projects, you can let go of a lot of those. And some of my clients and people in my audiences think, well, it's time for me to buy new filing cabinets because the other ones are filled. And I say, no. It's time to get in the back of those filing cabinets. You probably haven't looked at that stuff in years. And just get a big bin, put it up on a table so that you're not bending over trying to look at the back of a filing drawer. And just set a timer and then just quickly see, what are the jewels in there? What are the less than 20% things that you really need to keep and let go of the rest?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. I keep threatening that if I get sick, and I usually don't get sick, if I'm home for 2 or 3 days, that's what I'm going to do, but that hasn't happened. So it's hard to figure out, and that's a question. When, here you work every day, you have to have other things to do, to sit there and spend the time. Sometimes it takes hours and hours, 8 hours at a time if you really want to get into this. What should you do? Just bite off a little bit every day?
Well, it depends on that individual's schedule. So each person kind of, what is Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote? He is rich who owns the day. So when a person has more control over their calendar than other people, I say to those folks, look at your energy level and see if you can block off a half a day and just see how much of that you can attack and set a timer. And for those who are working full-time and are just really, you've got a packed schedule already, those folks absolutely need pleasurable experiences and free time, not saying, oh, goody, it's my weekend to do the files. I can't wait to get home, because that's a real negative. So for those folks, you're in Florida. I think when you've got a really bad, let's say, rain that's not a hurricane, and you're going to be home for a while, you could say, okay, I'm going to just take one drawer and put it into an open bin so I can actually see it and not have to bend over. And I'm going to take, on this rainy evening or rainy afternoon or rainy Saturday, I'm going to take an hour and a half and see what I could pull out that I absolutely know I'll never need again. Set a timer, and in 90 minutes, that's it. Don't ruin the whole weekend. Just give it a 90-minute block of time and say, oh, I've made some headway here. So it's kind of like the elephant thing. You're not eating the whole thing at once, but you've made an effort on that, and you've scheduled it. What happens to all of this is we don't schedule our time to do these kinds of things, and then we're frustrated that the stuff is growing and we've never gotten on top of it, whereas we schedule other things. We schedule other people wanting our time. We schedule doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, theater appointments, work appointments, but we don't really take any time to schedule it, and then we're mad that it's multiplying in our sleep. It hasn't gone away.
This is all such good advice. I want everyone to know. My guest is an author that really lets you know what clutter means. It's called Clear Your Clutter, 50 Ways to Organize Your Life, Home, or Business so you can become more calm, focused, and happy. Her name is Sue Crum, C-R-U-M. And why don't you tell people how they can get into some of your seminars or the kind of the teleseminars you do over the Internet?
Sure. Right. Well, for all of your listeners, I have a free ebook called Simple Strategies for Clearing Clutter. For clutter clearing you can do now, and they can get that at suecrum.com, SUECRUM.com. And if they just click on the button for Simple Strategies for clutter clearing you can do now, that'll get them started on some strategies that they can put in place as soon as they download that ebook. And then they'll start receiving my quick tips for energized and efficient people. And in that, I give a focus for the month. I give some great motivational quotes. I give some ideas on just how to stay on top of this and how to be more successful in our daily living. So it's not all about clearing clutter. The one this month for February was the power of the leap and taking a leap for the new year, because we have a leap year this month. So it's about stepping forward and stepping into what we want to do. So I highly suggest that for any of your listeners who really want to get on top of more things. And I help people virtually, so by phone. So not just in person, primarily by phone now.
So you actually talk to them about what they want to organize, and then you ask them lots of questions, and then you give them suggestions, and that's a great thing to do. I can see where that would really work.
It does. It does. My coaching program has been quite successful because some people either live away from where I am, or quite frankly, they're embarrassed about their stuff, and they don't really want even a professional coming in and looking at it. They just need that nudge and that coach by their side to tell them what to do next. That's what I provide.
Well, let's talk about clutter in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's funny. I have some sort of a thing about no clutter in the kitchen. Everything is put away. Maybe I have one beautiful salt shaker and maybe the toaster oven. Everything else is put away. And I have to come in at night late to make dinner. And it's so much easier to just whip everything up. And then when it's finished, I clean the dishes and put everything away. So where it's in the kitchen, I'm a no clutter person. But as far as my office and my desk and all the other places, I haven't figured that out.
Well, then, Anita, I suggest you look at my book, the Clear Your Clutter book, because Part 3 is all about business. And the Part 3 section of the book has 10 great chapters about focus. And I talk about my king of focus and who that is and how that works. And I talk about clear your decks, but I say clear your desks. And it talks also about the issues of paper, drowning in paper, what to do, and how to batch to the max. So it's a good 10-chapter section, because even if people aren't, running a business or out in the career, we all have the business of just getting ready for taxes, or the business of just daily living, and that includes a lot of paper as well. So that would be a place that I would suggest that you start.
Yeah. Well, there is something about, I have found that if you keep yourself uncluttered, like when I do go in and clean my office out, my mind is uncluttered. I relate the two, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, every once in a while you hear from real creative types who say, oh, I work best in a big mess. And they're really, what would be the word? They're really...
kidding themselves.
Well, they probably do work well, some of the creative types, but they might work even better if they knew where all their supplies were, if they had a chance to find things more easily. There are some creative types, if you think of artists and writers and things like that, that sometimes they, their studios look like train wrecks. But if they know where their supplies are and they can get to them without frustrating themselves, they don't have to have it, a minimalist, totally zen space to be creative. But for most of us, we will really be more creative and more calm and more focused when our spaces like that are more clear. It just clears the mind and clears the creativity to come through even stronger than it has been in the past.
Yeah, such good advice. Sue,
thank you.
This is, are there a lot of people doing what you do? I mean, have they written books and do they do the same kind of organization? Is this a common profession?
It has become certainly more common in recent years. There's a National Association of Professional Organizers, and I've been a member of that organization for some time. I'm past president of the chapter in San Diego. So it's a national organization of professional organizers. It was started in Los Angeles, I'm going to say, over 30 years ago. We're hearing more about it now, about the need, because we've gone through a period of time coming into the 21st century where people were filling up their houses, in particular, going for bigger houses, McMansion houses, and trying to fill a void, and then with stuff, and then realizing more didn't make them merrier. The more stuff was not making people happier at all, and they've done lots of studies on that. And there's a book, what is the name of it? The book is Life at Home in the 21st Century, and it came out about 3 years ago or so. And it was a study, an archaeology study of people in the middle class. They studied 80 homes of how those families were living. And the overwhelming majority of them were just feeling overscheduled, very stressed, and filling their home with stuff. And yet people were all going off to their corners in the house to watch their own televisions. And 75% of them who had garages, of the people who had garages, 75% of them could not get a car in the garage because of more stuff. So people are well aware now that more stuff does not equal more happiness. And that's really what, some of the organizers do some speaking. I do a lot of speaking, and I really try to get people into more productivity and recognizing that more stuff doesn't equal more happiness, and that less stuff can get them on to living the life they imagine and deserve, and get them on to figuring out their purpose and what it is they want to do, because our purpose changes over our lifetime. So, some people had a purpose at work and maybe now they're retired. Some people had a purpose going to school and now they're out of school. But over our lifetime, our purpose changes, and if we're all filled up with stuff, it's blocking us from getting on with what we should be doing.
So what do you think of people who are called hoarders? What do you think that psychology is? Are they clutters or something different?
I have worked with hoarders. I've worked with probably, I'm going to say about 5. The research on hoarders is coming out that their actual MRI scans are showing their brain pattern, their brain activity is different than the rest of the population. It's not a big group of people. It's getting a lot of recognition because of the television shows. And Hoarders can be helped when they want to get help and when they're working in conjunction with a psychotherapist side by side with them. What happens is, if you've watched any of the shows, sometimes the adult children want to, quote unquote, help the parent, and they get mom or dad out of the house, and then somebody comes in with a 1-800-GOT-JUNK truck and remove everything. Well, it all will grow back in short order because there's got to be a therapy piece to it, because the stuff is just what would be the word? The stuff just really is one symptom. There's other things going on, and sometimes you can get back to when it started. There was some traumatic event in their family that triggered this activity, and it's really sad. As I said, I've worked with several hoarders. When they have the psychologist working with them, and they're ready to make some changes, you have to kind of move gently and at their pace, because they get very overwhelmed very fast.
Yeah, well, thank you. I hadn't even thought about them until we started talking. I thought, why do they do that? But I see it as very psychological. But I want to ask you then, you're so good at this. You told us when you were a kid it didn't, seem to matter. But when did you first decide this was your profession?
Well, I was doing interior redesign, and I was helping people with one-day room makeovers, and then that led into real estate staging. And so I was in quite a few homes, and I was recognizing that even though realtors say it's location, 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 when a home is full of stuff, potential buyers can't really see through the stuff, and they're not going to make an offer. They're not going to go past the front door. They're not going to spend any time looking at a house where the inside is just close to a train wreck, because they're just not comfortable. They're feeling claustrophobic almost, and they can't get a sense of what the house really looks like. So when I was doing the real estate staging, I recognized, some homes were just ready to go, and people could actually kind of picture themselves moving in there. And then the others, where they couldn't, that's when I got involved with the professional organizing and helping people recognize that this was blocking them from getting any offers on their property and blocking them from getting on with where they wanted to move and live.
Yeah, that I know about the staging. That's very interesting. And I remember I was a real estate broker. I mean, I am, but I don't do practice that.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I understand,
Sure.
but it was like insulting the person. It was very hard to tell them this.
Well, that's why the real estate people like to hire me, because then I came in as the bad guy. And it wasn't the real estate agent telling them what they needed to clean up before the open house or the photo shoot. I became that heavy in the bad guy, and that was fine. That was a role I was fine with. And then the real estate folks would hire me, and then I would go in and be the bearer of the news and telling them what they needed to do before the shoot, the photo shoot.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure that, well, but I think what we started talking about, people really do feel better when their house or their office or whatever is cleaned up, because they can think. It is very, very disturbing to look at all that. Nothing is, spend hours trying to find one piece of paper because it's so non-creative.
Yes. And then our anxiety just kind of increases, and we know it's there somewhere. The problem today is the average American is spending at least 55 minutes a day looking for something that he or she knows that they have, but they just can't find it, whether it's a piece of paper or the screwdriver or a stapler or, a bill that was due or a check that somebody handed them. So we're all kind of living this overload, scattered schedule.
You must be in my office. I have spent, and I decided not to do this anymore. I really did. And I did something that you said, that if you're looking for something that's financial and you've already given all this to your CPA, just call their office. And I did this with the lawyer the other day on something. He just faxed it over.
There you go. That's it. And sometimes we don't think about that. And technology is sometimes our tool, but it's also sometimes our tirade. And, when we think about, who else has this? Where else is this information? That can, bring us down back to earth pretty fast if we just do exactly what you did. Who else has this information? Do I need to be the one that's in charge of the world here? No, not necessarily. Somebody else has it. And that is the beauty of the world that we're in today.
Yeah, and so you always, as a professional, give them permission. It's okay. You don't have to have everything. Go to the expert that does have it. And of course, income taxes, we won't even go there because that's the tough part for everybody, to have all the documents and everything and find it. But, I would just say that when my father was an attorney, and when he died, and he worked out of his home in the later years, he had so many things, and these were clients from 20, 30 years ago, and I wanted to throw them out, and I said, oh, no, you can't do that. And I said, no, that is just absolutely not going to happen. And I threw it all out. Why should I have kept it?
Well, I don't know what kind of business he had or who the clients were.
But, it was a long time ago. He wasn't practicing anymore, even though he thought he was. He answered the phone and wanted to make appointments. But I told the family, we are not going to move these file cabinets or get storage. Let's just get rid of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part, that can happen. I know that sometimes somebody's been, let's say, an estate attorney, and they've closed their office and they moved all the files to their home office. And there's a fiduciary responsibility going forward that the family just has to kind of confirm where those files should be kept. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm not really going to make any advice on that. But it depends on, what kind of clients they were and what the years were and that kind of thing. But that is true. We hang on to things because we're not sure. We stop in the name of not love, but we stop in the name of fear.
Right.
I'm afraid to throw it out. And it's kind of thinking, again, like I said, who else has this information? What I really strive with my clients, my virtual clients and my audiences, is getting them to being more productive, getting them to not having to spend their time, which is such a limited resource for all of us.
Right. And we have
things of
and we have a limited time now on the radio. You've done so well, and I just want everyone to know, clear your clutter, and that is Sue, and that's that's Sue Crum, Crum, and we are going to be figuring out how to give away some of the books to some of our listeners or our readers.
Oh, fabulous!
But we appreciate your coming on, Sue. Thank you so much.
Oh, great.
Bye.
Thank you, Anita, for having me. Anytime.
Yes, my pleasure. Right. Bye.